Welcome to an enlightened hour of interactive talk. This is Guided Spirit Conversations with host Marla Goldberg. In this program, we spotlight guests from all over the globe who have helped others change their lives and will provide you with the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to help you make a difference in your own life. Now, here is Marla Goldberg.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg, and I am so excited about today's guest, Suzanne Giessmann. And I said that correctly?
You did, yes.
Good, excellent. I was just so worried about that. So Suzanne is a messenger of hope who shares the awakened way, a path to knowing who you are and why you're here. Whether in her books, recordings, her classes, workshops, her weekly radio show, or her one-on-one sessions, Suzanne provides stunning evidence of life after death. She is a former U.S.Navy commander who has served as commanding officer and as the aide to chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Suzanne's gift of communication with those both on the other side has been recognized as highly credible by noted afterlife researchers. She brings messages of hope, healing, and love that go straight to the heart. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thanks, Marla, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us.
I'm so happy to have you here. What a difference from being so like a left brain kind of occupation to something that is so right brain. How did you move into mediumship from being a commanding officer in the Navy?
Well, it is a big switch. And let me tell you that I had no idea back then that I would be doing this now. As I hear that biography read, every time I hear it now, that feels like another world. And yet I can slip back into that mode in an instant and go into commander mode if needed. But I much prefer my life now, the way I live my life with peace and helping others in a different way. But I had no idea that I had any abilities to connect with the other side. But after my stepdaughter passed and I went looking for answers and to see if I could connect with her personally, I discovered, yes, I could do that. And so can everybody else with certain tools. And I've just dedicated my life since then, 2006, to opening up this connection and finding out how it works, why it works. But ultimately, that's led to understanding so much more than just the connection. It's all about who we are and why we're here. And that's what the awakened way that you mentioned in biography is about. So it's so much more than mediumship. And yet mediumship is the stepping stone to the greater reality.
Well, it's a lifestyle. I mean, because it's something that, yes, you can turn off, but it's always with you.
Thank goodness, because you look at people who don't know there's a greater reality and they really suffer. And
yes,
yeah, when you meld what we know into the lifestyle, then life is wondrous and joyous.
It is, and it brings more curiosity to one. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And it's that curiosity that can lead you to such wondrous, miraculous experiences that are the norm for I'm sure for you and for me, and can be for anybody. But if you just believe there's nothing more and you wall off that belief system, then the curiosity is not there and right. You get nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I just had a conversation recently with somebody who said that they were afraid of dying.
Oh.
And I said, there's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, I used to have that fear as well. I mean, before I stepped into my shoes that I wear today. And, you know, you find that there's a comfort in knowing what's on the other side because it's peaceful and beautiful. And I would venture to guess as an evidential medium that you find that from the people you connect with on the other side, that they share that with you.
Everyone. Yes, everyone. It's such a loving environment that we go to, but the whole path leads you to understand that you can bring heaven here, that you can find that loving environment here, not any way comparable in scale to the love that encounters us when we cross, as I've come to know. And I have been able to experience just a bit of that in meditation, more love than we experience here. And all of us can do that, but it is incredibly comforting. And you're right, just completely takes away the fear of death.
I so agree. And so, as an evidential medium, let's explain first of all, what is an evidential medium and how is that different from being a physical medium or I know there's another one and it's escaping me. I think mental medium.
Mental medium, yeah.
Okay.
Mental mediumship is what I do. Well, I do trance mediumship as well, channeling, but physical mediums bring in physical manifestations of spirit. But evidential mediumship is when you are not satisfied as a medium unless you receive and discern from the spirits you connect with verifiable information about their life that you don't know, that leave no doubt in the sitter's mind, the client's mind, the receiver's mind, that that's my loved one, because nobody could have known that. That is opposed to beautiful messages that are meaningful but could apply to anyone. So what we aim for, those beautiful messages, they may be generic or they may be specific. The messages are what it's all about, but the evidence supports those messages and lets the recipient know it's coming straight from their loved one.
So can you share, I know this might be a little early in the interview, but I'd love to hear some of the interesting evidences you've received from some of the spirits on the other side.
Every time I do a reading, they tell me how they passed, and they show me what kind of work they did in many cases. It's very important for me to clearly discern their personality. And then they'll talk about things going on in their loved one's life. Now, I just shared in a class I'm teaching online yesterday, an excerpt from a reading, a video of the reading, where I said, your husband's showing me this ring that I have now, and it's literally a great big rock. And I know we talk about a diamond being a rock, but I was about to say, this isn't a diamond, because he's talking about a ring you have. And she holds up on camera her hand with this giant ring. Literally, it covered that much of her finger, and it was a rock. And even watching the video in class yesterday, even though I've seen it when editing it, putting it together, I was there when the husband showed it to me. I just burst out laughing, because you can't deny things like that.
You can't deny those things. It's so amazing. So a question that I had received was, do you remember, and I mean, from what you're talking about, what goes on with the people that you experience life with when you're on the other side? Not just your loved ones, but I think the memory of the whole life.
You mean from the spirit's perspective, do they remember their life? Yes. Oh, every bit of it, but it's not even necessary to remember it. They're here still participating with us, looking in on us, traveling around. So life really does go on. And the things that you didn't get to do, you can create that experience across the veil much more easily than we do here. But the beautiful part about when the spirits show me things going on now, like you just renovated your house, your loved one is telling me, or they're telling me that you just ate popcorn, and a woman goes, oh my God, I was rushing for this reading and I didn't have time for lunch, and I just grabbed a handful of popcorn. Well, yeah, I got the goosebumps, because because they really are part of our lives. And while that doesn't erase the grief, it's so comforting to know they are still part of our lives, and we absolutely will see them again, face to face, soul to soul, at some time in the future.
I think it's amazing. I just read this book, The Definitive Book of the Afterlife, and they're talking about how people can plan their meeting on the other side when everybody's deceased. So, for example, my husband and I could say, oh, let's meet at the beach at Hilton Head. And so we could, when we're both on the other side, find Hilton Head and meet on that beach, or find that special place.
Yes, it's a much less limited reality in the non-physical world, without a doubt.
Which is amazing. So let's talk about guides and guardians and how they're different than just those who have transitioned on the other side. Because many of our guides could be from the other side, but then we have angelic guides as well, correct?
Yes, we're part of a limitless field of possible realities. There are many more than just the non-physical reality that is co-joined with our physical reality. And so think of it all as like one, but say there's like one big field of being, like a body, and there are different systems and subsets, but all one body. So this physical world and our non-physical world are over here in one subset, and then there are other realities, but there are realities that support our whole physical and non-physical reality, and that would be the angelic realm that's kind of assigned to help us here, whether we're in physical form or not. And so guides, in many cases, have had life in physical form. Their soul had achieved such a fulfilling experience that they've realized their wholeness. There's no really reason to go back and have another physical incarnation. So they're going to use what they learned in multiple incarnations to help some of us who are still here. And they volunteer to be guides, which I understand from them is jokingly not the easiest thing in the world.
No, sometimes I'm sure it's like herding cats to them.
Yeah, and while they don't experience frustration in the human sense, they know they can help us, but the humans not realizing they have guides don't ask. And so here's one great piece of advice for everybody. Please ask your guides for help. You're not alone. There's no need to suffer in silence. And that is what prayer is, isn't it? It's asking for help from something outside yourself. And that's when the miracles start. You have to ask.
It's so true. And you don't even have to know who their name. You can just say, I need help, help me. But they won't be able to do it. From what I understand, they don't have the free will. So they won't be able to do this helping automatically in the most part, for the majority. I'm sure there's some dire circumstances which they intervene in, which stories we've all heard.
That's right.
But
it serves the greater good. If I could just say that from the perspective my guides have given me, guides do have free will, but they can't interrupt ours. They can't interfere with our free will choices, because that's how we learn the most.
That's a great clarification. Thank you. And when you were talking about the subsets, so as a soul that's transition, can you go to Pleiades or some of the other planets out there and interact with the beings that are on those planets?
As the expressions of consciousness that we are, as the points of light, the souls that we are now, we have the ability to travel in consciousness beyond this reality. So yes, if there is a reality called the Pleiades, whatever other realities exist through a shared consciousness, our consciousness as a unit of consciousness can visit those with a clear intention and a solid belief. Does it serve the greater good? Why do it? You will have much greater success if it serves your soul's growth here and now. So yeah, it may be fun to travel around. That opens your mind to what's possible, but then let's apply that to how do we optimize our time here in a body. That's why we're here having this experience.
And how do we optimize and maximize our time in the body?
Oh, love with all your heart and soul. Learn what the definition of unconditional love is and apply it. Learn by trial and error. Don't aim for perfection, aim for improvement, because perfection is impossible in this world of duality. So don't be so hard on yourself, and learn and grow in loving and shining your light from every opportunity, every moment.
I love that. What a great message for everyone, especially in this time.
It's easy when you see problems, which is a human point of view, as opportunities, which is the soul's point of view, and stop complaining about it and say, how can I turn this around and use it as a growth opportunity and maybe help somebody else in the meantime? Because it's not all about us. The more we end up sharing love and helping others to raise the quality of their consciousness, then we're really on task.
I love that. And it's so true. And a lot of people forget, that we are a collective. We are, that we're many, we are really one.
Yeah.
And to be able to help somebody else, it feels good for a reason. It feels good when you're able to help.
Yeah. That's built into the the system here. It's the soul's gift that when we connect with another, it feels so good. It causes us to want to do it again and again. There's a reason that pain is painful. It nudges us back to soul awareness. So pain may seem like not a gift, but it is.
I look at everything as a stepping stone to growth. So when you go through these dark times, it's so you can be appreciative of the light.
Yes.
And the growth that you have along with this. So where am I? I'm losing what have you learned from your communication with spirit, and that's important for our lives today?
In addition to what we've been sharing, that we're not alone, I always fall back on the awakened way, which is a teaching that derived from a connection I had with a young man whose nickname was Wolf. The whole story, his message is in my book, Wolf's Message, which really turns people's lives around when they read it. But his message, which is now what I call the awakened way, boils down to 3 principles for living our life. And the first one is that you are the expression of one loving source now in a human body. So you are both human and what we call a soul. That's really important to understand that. And we talked about that already. But also, number 2, you are part of one big connected web uniting all that is. And that's that lack of separation that we talked about. And the third one is that you find your way home. You bring heaven to earth through the heart. So that's the final piece that's missing in what we've talked about so far, that you can't find this greater reality through logic or thinking. Your heart already knows it exists. And that's the reason why people are tuning in now. There's this innate desire to know more about who we really are. And we're not fulfilled when we stay in the head and just think about it and focus on the human world. When we tune into what our heart knows, that longing for connection, that longing to love and be loved, then we open to new experiences and grow.
When you're talking, I'm just feeling my heart. It just feels like it's expanding and getting warmer.
Yeah.
As I'm taking in what you're saying. So, okay, the Awakened Path, where do we find it?
TheAwakenedWay.org.
I'm sorry, way.
It's literally, it's a separate page, like a subset on my website, SuzanneGiesemann.com, but you can get directly to that page by typing in TheAwakenedWay.org.
Wonderful. We're going to go take a quick break. We'll be right back. And I want to talk to you more about your classes, what you're doing, what you've been up to, and what's coming down the pike. So hang on.
Thanks.
All right, good. We're all clear. Back in a couple.
Thank you. I didn't want to get into a long conversation when we had 2 minutes left. So I'm like, I figure do it sooner than later.
Now, this is streaming live on Facebook. How do you keep this chat from showing up on Facebook right now?
Oh, no, it shows up on Facebook.
This chat that you and I are having, this break when we're talking right now.
That's sort of like one of the bonuses, because here's the thing, the conversation could be personal. It could be funny. It could be, insights. I just, it's very organic, and I like it that way because it's not staged and people can see the humanness in all of us when we just let our interview guards down and just start chatting. So
very good. Well, it's flowing beautifully. I thank you for the questions.
Thank you. I'm loving the answers. Oh my God, when you were just talking about Wolf, my heart was just,
oh yeah,
really, I could just feel the expansion in it.
Yeah, that book, when people read it, I get emails all the time. I'm reading the book and all these synchronicities are happening in my life. I just saw a wolf and I just saw that. And it's the energy of that book that leads people to actually experience the web that he reveals through that book.
That's fascinating. Every time you say the web, I see this picture of a web and how everything is just so interconnected. I wish more people were able to see that, because I feel it would help them understand humanity.
Oh yeah, That curtain behind you with the lights is perfect, because that's how I see it. Each of us a point of light, and yet each of those could be in different realities. It's all so connected. It's not like this is our human realm and that's the spirit world over here and that's where our guides are. It's that web of light behind you. Ooh, goosebumps with that one.
I love that.
Yeah.
And who knew? I didn't even know I was putting up that web of light. So
Yeah.
it's good. Is there anything that I'm missing asking at this point? I know we still
No,
have
not
2
at
more
all.
segments, but I want to make sure that we hit, and I do want to talk about your classes and what they're about, and
Yeah,
when we
sure.
get back on.
That's fine. No, it's all good.
So it is, yeah. But I would tell you, it was a great epiphany when I read the book, The Afterlife, about how you can plan your, where you're going to go on the other side, even so, even as a singular,
Yeah.
where you can just say, I'm going to the most beautiful place, or I'm going to go to the top of the most beautiful mountain, or like me, Bali is my happy spot. I'm going to Bali, and you can find yourself where you want to be.
So sorry to interrupt you, Marla, but we're coming back in just a few seconds.
Thanks.
Marla, I would like to talk about grief and the healing potential of mediumship. Okay.
Perfect.
At some point.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. If you've just tuned in, I'm with Suzanne Giessmann, and Suzanne is a messenger of hope, and she shares the awakened way, a path to knowing who you are and why you're here. Whether it's in her books, her readings, her classes and workshops, her weekly radio show, or her one-on-one sessions, Suzanne provides stunning evidence of life after death. She is a former U.S.Navy commander who served as a commanding officer and as an aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Suzanne's gifts of communication with those on the other side has been recognized as highly credible by noted afterlife researchers. She brings messages of hope, healing, and love that go straight to the heart. And that is so true. If you've missed the first segment, please watch it, because this was pretty amazing. You can find Suzanne at Suzanne Giessmann, but Giessmann is spelled GIESEMANN.com. So check out her website and all she's doing. So welcome back, Suzanne.
Thanks,
we
Marla.
have a question. Timothy says I find it hard to meditate. Is it necessary to meditate to be able to connect to the angelic realm?
I would say it's not necessary, but for the mass of humanity, it is incredibly helpful, because we're so focused on the external world and our minds are constantly active, especially the more we get into using our mobile devices and computers. So meditation is a practice in which we can train our minds to be still, in which we can train ourselves to know that there's a difference between focusing on a task at work and focusing on just being. And the more you can clear your mind of the clutter and shift your focus from the external world to the state of pure being, that's when you can connect with other levels of consciousness. But even more importantly, that's when you come to know, I am this awareness that's looking through all eyes, not just these eyes. That's huge.
That is huge. And it, for me, it allows you to clear your mind and make space to receive the messages, because sometimes our minds go so much and they're so full and you can't hear the messages. So when you get quiet and allow that decompression time and you reach out to the universe, is when you will hear messages.
And that, Marla, is how and why I am a medium to this day, because when I wanted to connect with my stepdaughter, Susan, who had passed, that's how I started on this path. I knew I had to quiet my mind and try myself. So I began meditating every day in 2006. And soon in the silence, I began to hear intuitive messages, to receive insights, then to be able to pick up on other people's thoughts, and soon to pick up on the thoughts of those in spirit. It's a journey. It's ongoing, that peeling away the layers of conditioned human being to realize we are pure being itself. And it's magical what comes through the practice of meditation.
And you need to be patient with yourself. I think people expect, they close their eyes and they go into this process and that it immediately whisks them away. Some people are able to do that, but the majority of us really, that's why it's called a practice, because you need practice.
Yeah. It was well over a year till I connected with my stepdaughter, and people, they see me now and it's just like Tiger Woods. People see him and they think he was always been a superstar, but he had years and years and years of practicing. And I have now years and years and years of honing these abilities. So it's a matter of commitment and dedication to the spiritual path. If it's your calling to connect with spirits, that will absolutely reveal itself. But barring that, the miracles that happen to all of us in the silence, and the greatest miracle of all, coming to know I am this love that I've been seeking, is well worth any effort that you put into it.
I so agree. We do have a caller. We have Laura calling in from Utah. So let's see if she's...
Hello.
Hello, Laura.
Hi. Hello. Thanks to both of you. Suzanne, you're amazing. I've started following you about 6 months ago. I'm learning so much every day.
I'm glad.
And I want to say yes. And for anybody that struggles with meditation, I did download the booklet that you give on your website, which is really, really helpful because I struggle with that. But the reason for my call is it's been interesting to kind of see around the world recently that life after death and all of these, knowledge about something beyond our human life seems to be really out into the mainstream consciousness now. I mean, there's a new Netflix series on TV, which is incredible. I'm wondering if you can shed any light on what's happening with humanity right now. Are we going through some sort of a shift, or what do your guides tell you?
Oh, without a doubt, the consciousness as a whole is evolving, and that's why we're here. So the more each individual turns up their light, literally, this turns up the light around our planet. We are one body of humanity and still a subset of a greater body of being. So we're going through this evolution where people are learning to care more about each other. And the more you do that, the more people tap into the greater reality. So the fear that was based on past belief systems, that it's somehow wrong to have adventures in consciousness or connect with those who have passed, is going away as more and more people are coming to see that this is healing, that this is helpful, that this brings more love into our world. So bring it on, huh?
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks to you both.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate you calling in. Well, speaking of grief and healing, how does mediumship help with the grieving process and the healing process?
Oh my gosh, when our Susan died, you just feel it's the end of the world. And how can we never see her again? I mean, the challenge with death is it seems so final. We're going through that with my dog who passed 4 days ago. It's so final. And that's the human viewpoint.
Right.
And I would give anything to feel that beautiful body again, to hug my beautiful stepdaughter again. But we know that's an impossibility in the physical realm, but it's not an impossibility in the non-physical realm. Many of you listening who follow my work have felt the touch of your loved ones who have passed, have felt a hug or a hand on the shoulder or somebody pressing you. My husband felt Susan's fingers on his arms and turned him sideways. This tough Navy destroyer captain burst into tears because he could not deny she is still with us. So the healing that comes, that propels us on our path of grief, that yes, we still go through that process of grieving, but to know they're still part of our lives, that is priceless, as the commercial says. And in fact, I have a weekly radio show, And for those listening to your podcast live today, my guest is all about grief and healing from grief and how that helps. So that's part of the path that you and I are on, isn't it, Marla?
It is.
Help people find healing from knowing there's so much more.
Healing, growth, and yes, to know there's so much more. So this begs to ask the question, does our soul know when I call it the expiration date, when our contract is up?
Absolutely. I know that for a fact now. In fact, I have so many slides in the workshops. It comes up in so many workshops. The soul knows. And many people will share with you stories of how their loved ones somehow got through to them a message that they were going to pass soon, even if at the human level they didn't know it. And Wolf's Message, the book that we talked about, has the most stunning example I've ever heard of a soul that leaves no doubt, that gives proof. I don't care what any skeptic says. In that book is proof that the soul knows when its time is up.
What about near-death experiences? Someone said that we have like 5 times in our lifetime where we could exit out, but then there's the final expiration date. How does that work with?
I haven't heard that. And that is so human, isn't it? To want to quantify and have a limit. And I can hear my guides laughing right now. And they're saying, they forgive us for being human. Just accept. And so I really I would not believe that statement so much, but who knows? Anything is possible. All I know is that yes, and near-death experiences do back this up. We do have what some people have called exit points. And so some people actually do have those experiences where they actually die, and it is an exit point, but they're given a choice. You're going to stay here in the non-physical world or go back. And it's the ones who choose to come back that we hear about their stories through near-death experiences. Now, if I could very quickly, I know some people are listening and say, my loved one loved us so much, had so much to live for. Why didn't they come back then? Would they have made that choice? Please do not feel that at the human level, it was a choice made to hurt you. In many cases, the body is so badly damaged, it's impossible for them to come back, even if they wanted to. In other cases, it's so clear that the growth for loved ones still in physical form and the whole will be so great. If they don't come back, they make that sacrifice, knowing it will be painful for those left here. So it's always helpful to have both points of view. How does something affect you personally? But the big picture view really puts things into perspective.
And then the ones that transition, they are there for your benefit. You know, you may not see them or hear them, but they're there trying to comfort you during your mourning process. Would you agree?
Oh, they are. There's no doubt about it. I have so many stories from across the veil of being at their own funerals and seeing the grief that their loved ones are going through. If we only knew, it would be comforting, but yet we still need to feel that grief. That's part of being human, part of the reason we came here, to feel the wholeness. You see this symbol back here, the yin and the yang is part of earthly life.
I love it. And it's got hearts in it.
Yeah.
So I love the hearts, of course. So then let's go into reincarnation. And do we, is there like a process where, you're going to be there? I'm going to talk human years, like 10 years, and then you reincarnate, or how do you have an idea how that whole reincarnation process works?
I do have an idea. And of course, we can't prove any of this until we get on the other side and learn it personally. But there are so many ways to learn about reincarnation. One of them is through the massive research done by credible sources that we can read about and just know by the preponderance of the evidence that reincarnation is a reality. Those who I channel, my team of guides who we call Sanaya, have convinced me when I wasn't convinced before that we do come back. What is the point of this life if we can't learn all the lessons in one time? And so we go round and round as a soul in different incarnations to work on different challenges, different opportunities. And because there's no time in the non-physical world, because it's a different rule set than this reality where time unfolds linearly for the cause and effect lessons that result from that, we can't put a time limit to how long. When the soul knows and makes that choice to come back and incarnate, that's just an event in the spirit world that would be different periods of time relative to that soul and its soul group still incarnated here. I have to add something that causes everybody to worry when we talk about reincarnation, and that is if your loved one passes, they meld back into the soul that we always are. If that soul chooses to reincarnate again, they will do so, but your loved one is always an aspect of that soul and is there to greet you when you cross the veil, even if another aspect of that light that is the soul has reincarnated. So don't worry about that.
And our soul is able to be in more than one place at one time. I mean, we can split and, like you said, be with your loved one while living a different life.
Oh, yes. One of my guides, my main mediumship guide now is my dear friend from physical form named Brenda, who passed in 2018. And she has visited many of our friends at the same time. So it's not just bilocating, it's wherever you want to be, because you are the light without a physical form, so less constrained than these heavy, clunky bodies.
Exactly. Let's talk about souls, younger souls opposed to older souls. You hear the phrase, you're an old soul, or this one's a young soul. Can you explain what the difference is for our audience?
Absolutely. And a young soul is one that just arose from the field of love to have an experience as a human. So they have not had many experiences, and they're going to face great challenges and test themselves like every soul does. But they may not yet have had enough experiences in human form to realize who they are as a soul. The more times we go around and gain in quality of consciousness, our ability to love and care about each other, then that is displaying someone who has learned through trial and error multiple lifetimes. So sometimes we talk to children who passed early and their parents will say, oh, they were an old soul. You just knew it. There was something different about that child, that they were wise beyond their years. They loved everybody, cared about everybody. And sometimes they didn't need to live what we consider a full life, because their example that they left for us here is enough to impel us to love more just from that short period of time they were here.
And it's so beautiful to think about that. So if your child, transitions early, that they're just, they've made their imprint on you in a positive, beautiful, loving way. Yeah. And now it's time for them to go to the next level or their next experience.
Yeah. Think bigger picture. Yeah. And remember, it's not a tragedy for those who cross the veil. We absolutely have in our belief system that it's a tragedy here if a child passes young. And I wouldn't argue that at all, because we've been through it in our family. But that's why we're gifted on this awakened way path that I teach, to know that we get to choose our point of view. Yeah, I can see it as a tragedy, and that's true. But I can also have big picture, and from my case, see the hundreds of thousands of people who have heard these messages of hope because of Susan's passing directly as a result of that. So bigger picture will help us heal every time.
Wonderful. We've got a caller from Nebraska, but we have to go on break. So let's keep her on hold for a minute, go on break, and we'll be back to talk to Deb in Nebraska.
Wonderful.
All right, great job. We're all clear.
Thank you. That is just, I think this is so wonderful for the audience to hear, because these are such powerful messages, and it clears up so much misconceptions that people may have.
There are so many, and that's what that causes us to suffer. So I'm just so honored to share. And I sometimes talk a little long, so I hope I'm not.
No, you're perfect. You're absolutely perfect. And this is fabulous information. And it's so meaty for people to take in, because it's a perspective that is very as concrete can be in this topic.
Well, this is why I'm so grateful for my background as that Navy commander. I have done so many briefings for admirals and generals and, and government officials and senators and congressmen, and you have to be concise and it has to be logical. So to work that into this work now, to integrate it with the heart, that's been my goal. And so my goal is to put these concepts that are hard to wrap our head around into ways that make sense to people, but at a heart level. I want them to go into the heart and not try to think it through so much. I
know we don't have time for this, but I'd love to understand the whole thing that happened last week and where the heart was in that, with the messages in that, because there's got to be, there is a message.
It's very simple. We don't need time for that. It's simple. You're dealing with people who are stuck in the human point of view. They don't have the big picture, or we would be mediating, we would be finding consensus. So you have to look upon these situations, if you want peace, from the bigger picture and see these are people who don't understand we are souls and we came here to grow up, to learn to love each other more. And they just don't have sight of that. We can look at one moment in time last week, but look at what led up to that. Everybody that causes strife and doesn't work from the heart has momentarily forgotten who we are and why we're here. If we can look upon that with compassion and say, let's not add fuel to the fire, let's show them a better way, then hopefully we'll have fewer of those incidents moving forward.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, that we're going to move forward that way. Yes, Matt, we're ready.
All right, here we go.
Thank you.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. If you've just tuned in, I'm talking to evidential medium Suzanne Giessmann. And Suzanne is the messenger of hope. She shares the awakened way in her book, A Path to Knowing Who You Are and Why You're Here. Whether it's in her books, her recordings, classes, workshops, her weekly radio show, or her one-on-one sessions, Suzanne provides stunning evidence of life after death. She is a former U.S.Navy commander who served as a commanding officer and as an aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And Suzanne's gifts of communication with those on the other side has been recognized as highly credible by noted researchers of afterlife. She brings messages of hope, healing, and love that go straight to the heart. And if you want to check out Suzanne's website, it's Suzanne, Suzanne, Giessmann, Giessmann.com. Welcome back, Suzanne.
Thanks, Marla.
And so we have our charity shout out time. So charity shout out, yours is helpingparentsheal.org. Let's talk about the charity and why it's so meaningful.
Well, with my stepdaughter Cross the Veil, I have a small taste of what biological parents go through when a child passes. And Helping Parents Heal is a support group, unlike others I've found, that encourages active conversations about the afterlife and the difference between their meetings filled with hope and signs from our kids who have passed versus those who meet simply to support each other, which is a wonderful thing, but to remain stuck in their grief is tremendous. So Helping Parents Heal has chapters all over the country and now around the world, whose members vary in their place on the path, on the journey of recovery. Those who come in who are brand new, they have a child who just passed, just think they'll never find joy again. And at first they're a little affronted when they see some of the members laughing and smiling. How can you be that way? Until by the end of the meeting, they understand why. Because those other members who are farther along in their journey know their kids are even in the meetings. And so it gives them hope from the very first meeting. Someday I will smile again. And by gosh, they do. So helpingparentsheal.org is my favorite charity.
I love that. So everybody out there, if this resonates with you, please go check out helpingparentsheal.org. See what you can do to support them through donation time, whatever it might be, or maybe this is something that might really fit what you need in your life today. So please check them out. Thank you, Suzanne, for that. And we have been having Deb in Nebraska hanging on for us so patiently. So let's welcome Deb in.
Thank you. I have a question and a comment. I lost my mother and father years ago, and over the last week, they would have each had a birthday, a heavenly birthday. So on the day of my mother's birthday, I was meditating, and I asked the universe to send 2 cardinals to my home, to, outside, so that I could see them in representation of my mother and my father. And within about 30 minutes, I am in my living room in my home, and I look out on the backyard, and a male cardinal comes flying in so fast he almost fell off the railing of the deck. Within about 3 or 4 minutes, a female cardinal came in and landed right next to him, and they stood side by side, and it looked like they were almost kissing, like their beaks were touching.
Beautiful.
And I just got chills down my spine because I thanked the universe for answering my prayer, because I was trying to manifest these cardinals. And I've been meditating now for about a year. And I hear people say that when you meditate and you ask for signs, or when you're trying to manifest something, and I wondered, is it normal to get like a thought that comes into your mind during meditation? Or sometimes I notice on every day when I meditate, I might get an strong intuition about something several hours later about, go this place to buy a lottery ticket or do this or whatever. And I wondered if you could expand on how that process works.
Yes, I just love that you provided that perfect example of how the process works. There are many ways to get signs, but you just did it perfectly. And know that our loved ones are especially close on those special dates like birthdays. And it's because we're thinking about them so much, and they're thinking about us, so they drop in. But it's simply a matter of asking for signs, and it doesn't have to be in meditation, but meditation is a great time to make that connection because it is focused intent during an expanded state of consciousness when you're not thinking about everything else. That's why it works so well. So the answers that you are asking for, the signs you're looking for, may come right away or they may come later. But usually when you ask with that kind of focused intent, it happens beautifully like that. Now, please, I don't want everybody to get upset if they don't get their signs, but it happens more often than not. So you have to get in the habit of doing this regularly. I have monthly online webinars, and every month I share those kinds of signs and teach people how to do it. So you're like prize pupil right there.
Well, several weeks ago, I was meditating and I asked the universe to send me a blue butterfly that day as a sign that things are okay and, everything. And 6 hours later, I was at a doctor's office. I had to have a pre-op physical for a cataract surgery I was having the next day. And I went down to the lab to draw blood with the nurse. And when she got done drawing my blood, I looked up on the wall and there was a 30 by 30 poster. And guess what was on the poster?
I know, it was a blue butterfly.
Enormous blue butterfly. And I told the nurse this story, and she said, "Oh my gosh, Deb, I just got chills down my spine." She goes, "Look on the other wall, same poster, 30 by 30 blue butterfly." And now I notice blue butterflies everywhere. Well, it's so crazy.
If I could educate everybody that I know from my guides telling me this and having them enough experiences of it, the reason you asked for that sign is because your guides and loved ones in spirit knew you were going to be in that doctor's office and seeing those posters. They set you up for that beautiful moment. That's the web. So when we pause and say, I want a sign today, they know what is possible and put the specific sign that you think you asked for into your mind.
That's beautiful. Last week I was at the dentist and I was telling the hygienist this story. She goes, "Deb, get up. I want to show you something in our hallway." 3 posters, 20 by 20, with hundreds of blue butterflies on each poster. I snapped a picture of it with my cell phone to show my family because I'm like, oh my gosh, these blue butterflies are everywhere. And you're right, Suzanne, and that makes my heart feel so happy to know that, you know, and there's also a feeling that when I ask for these things, I have this, I guess I'd call it a knowing in my heart that it's going to happen. I don't doubt it. I just know it's going to come.
I'm glad you noticed that, because that's part of that intuitive knowing that we can develop through meditation.
It's a sense of knowing. And there's days I ask and it doesn't happen. But on the days that it does, I have this knowing that it is indeed going to happen. So thank you. You're such an inspiration, all of you, to my journey in this spiritual path. So I just want to say thank you.
You're most welcome.
And thank you, Deb, for tuning in and being a part of the show. We appreciate you. So I have one quick question. What's going on? What kind of classes do you have coming up? Workshops? What should we talk about?
You know, Marla, there's never a time that I don't have a class or workshop coming up. And happily, I have online workshops and classes that people can take on demand. So I'm so grateful to my assistant, Bev, for making my website so navigable and easy to find all the many things, including a lot of gifts like that meditation book that somebody talked about. I am so excited that I have a new series with the Hemisync Audible Tones for Meditation, that this is the first time I'm announcing it. We have a new release coming out January 23rd, and it's all about tools for awakening. The first release is called Getting to Know Your True Self. And so I'd love if people go to my website and sign up for my email notifications, join my newsletter, because then you'll be the first one to know about that kind of thing, like new releases, workshops coming up. And so right at the bottom of the homepage, also on the contact page there, and also on the gifts page, is a form to fill out to join my newsletter, as well as the Daily Way messages. I get beautiful short messages from my guides every day. I have gotten them for 10 years. Wow. And you know, Marla, we are just under now 10,000 people get those Daily Way messages every day. And so many each day say, this one was just for me. I think in this world of getting so many emails, to have that many people ask to get a daily email speaks highly for the energy and the wisdom that comes from those gifts from the guides.
What a gift for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so
how fabulous.
dailyway.org is where you read those messages and can sign up to get them by email. So thank you for letting me share that.
My absolute pleasure. Well, Suzanne, I'm sorry to say our time is up, but I have enjoyed it.
Fast.
It was so fast. And I know there's so much more to talk about, but I'm so grateful for the time you've given us today and all the great information. And I know that it is going to open people's belief systems because they're hearing it in a very concrete way. There's no, it's what I've noticed is that this is very firm messaging. And so, there's no wiggle room here. It is defined.
It is truth. It is absolute truth. And thank you for the opportunity to share it with people, because belief in a greater reality and your role in it is the absolute first key to connecting with the web.
It's so true. And so I thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. So grateful. I want to thank everyone at Voice America for all you do to get my show up and running. Bridget, thank you. You're my right hand, my left hand. So grateful for you each and every day. And I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking the time out of your day, out of your life to participate in this podcast. My hope, wish, desire is that you receive some really wonderful information that you can incorporate into your day, into your life, to help your life be the divine life you're meant to live. And before I leave, I just want to make 2 mentions. Number 1, please check out my page on Facebook, Marla Goldberg Energy Healer. I am leading a guided visualization for 2021 on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So check that out, sign up for it. After the event is over, you will receive a link so you can always go back and change what you intend in their visualization. And the second thing is, I want to remind you to please wear your masks It's still going around. Let's be considerate of others by wearing our masks, keeping our hands as sanitized as possible, and keeping our space. You don't know what anybody is dealing with, and I know none of you would want to be contaminated or contaminate somebody else unknowingly. So please be considerate of others. And as always, I leave you by saying thank you for being a part of today. I send you love. I send you blessings. I send you gratitude. You are so loved, and I am so appreciative of you being in my life. Thank you so much.